week's episode of The Voice Party is brought to you by Big Boy Raps. Get your car wrapped by some of the most experienced and skilled in the Bay. Big Boy Raps, where the big boys play.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Voice of the Party, where everything we do is better than the Voice Party. Today we have a very special guest.
Shut up. This is not the Voice of the Party. This is the voice. He keeps trying to take over the show. He has his own podcast called The Voice of the Party ever since he left, and he keeps trying to take over our show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Voice Party, the podcast where dreams come true. Still working on the slogan. Yeah. We got JD here, Phil. Say what's up, Phil, to the listeners.
Hey, I'm pushing all the buttons.
Pushing all the buttons. He's busy. And new co-host, introduce yourself.
My name is Marcos Molinar, lead singer of Tomorrow's June.
You don't have to say that. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. And then returning day oneer.
Hi. What had happened was...
No, just say your name.
Oh, okay.
Dick.
I'm Gaspar.
And today we have very special guests that are doing something for the community that's really important, and it's like a big topic right now. And I'm glad you guys are here with us goofballs, you know? So please introduce yourselves one at a time.
Hello, my name is Osmo Huerta. I am a high school senior at Salesian College Preparatory, and I'm also the co-chair of the Richmond City Youth Council, and
okay.
I'm a member of
Reimagine Richmond.
Richmond.
Nice. Okay.
Hola, soy Marisol.
You can take it off that stand.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That works.
Like you're about to hit the solo, you know, the voice, the high-pitched solo.
Over. I got a lot of testosterone here,
yeah.
So let's go ahead and get some. Okay. Oh, hello. Got it. So I'm Marisol Cantu, third generation Richmond resident and a community activist and teacher right here in Richmond. And I'm from Reimagine Richmond, our group.
Reimagine Richmond.
Hey everybody, my name is Armand Lee. I'm Richmond born and raised. I'm a current senior at UCLA. I did graduate from Elstree High School, but I'm an activist, organizer, one of the founders of Richmond Revolution, and been doing some work with Reimagine Richmond as well. So, awesome.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I've actually heard of Richmond Revolution. I've seen I follow the page,
Okay.
and you guys talked about Reimagine Richmond. Can you guys talk about those?
Yeah, start off with Richmond Rev because they're the ones that really hit it off last year.
Okay.
They're going to give you some like history right here.
Yeah. So Richmond Revolution is just a bunch of young adults who were just home, from college because of the pandemic, of course, right? And so one of our organizers, actually, Helen Burks, had posted a post on Facebook like, hey, all these protests are happening, is somebody going to do something to Richmond? Mm-hmm. And I took that and I ran with it, right? And I'm like, all right, yep, Helen, let's do it. We're always going to Oakland and San Francisco. Let's do something here in Richmond because Richmond, seems to be always forgotten about. And so we pulled together some folks and everybody hit up 3-5 people. And so the first night we had about 50 people on the call, and we organized a protest in a matter of 5 days to really garner our community around the deaths of George Floyd, who was murdered by Derek Chauvin, the officer at the time, who had his knee on his neck. And so we had about over 3,000 folks show up, and we really didn't want the protest just to be a protest, if you will. We wanted to mobilize our community for organization, right? And really grab that attention that was happening nationwide, bring it home so that we can really work on things at the local level. And so that's just a brief synopsis of Richmond Revolution.
So essentially you guys have like a steady group because this happens a lot, to keep it, keep the flame burning, essentially.
Got to.
Yeah.
And that's how I actually was introduced to Richmond Revolution. I saw these young leaders coming in and mobilizing and pushing like older folks to get involved, and in solidarity of Black Lives Matter. And they went in, from Civic Center, they walked all the way down to RPD, fucking protested in front of RPD, which was huge for the community. And so I think it was one of the first ones where that entire rally happened like that.
And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention Lavonna, Bobo, and Simone Anderson, who are also one of the core members of Richmond Revolution.
Okay.
Yep. and I saw all of them speaking and just speaking truth to power. And I was like, you know what? We need to do something more, like you're saying, right? Not just, okay, protest, absolutely, but what else can we do was really the question that was driving us. Yeah. And then after that, there were a couple of community leaders already doing hella work. So one is our city council woman, Claudia Jimenez, a Latina buena onda, and she and Tamisha Torres Walker, who's actually city council for Antioch, ended up really pushing for policy change. And so we were kind of going off like the defund movement of 20%. Like, let's just take 20% from the police. Hell yeah, fuck them. Like, let's take it. But we didn't really know what we were asking for. Right. Like, we didn't have anything in place. We didn't have like a reinvestment in our community or implementation plan of anything. And so that's when we decided to push for a task force. And that task force, the city council approved last year, and we started work in October, and it's called the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. And really looking at like public safety for all, not just for the minority few that feel safe calling the police, but like actually looking at safety for Black and Brown. The API, like we have hella Southeast Asian folks in Richmond and San Pablo, like Laotian, Mien, Hmong, yep. And so we were just like let's pull together folks and see what they wanted. So we surveyed hella people, and we came up with some plans. And how do you feel, Ozmar? You want to talk about some plans, or you want to talk about how you got involved in the work?
I don't know, completely up to you.
Yeah, you take it away. How did you get involved?
Okay, so I originally got involved with the Reimagine Richmond task force because as I said earlier, I'm a member of the Richmond City Youth Council, and that's the official advisory board to the city. In doing that, our job is to really advise on any policies or issues that are directly affecting the youth or indirectly affecting the youth, either through their family or other just things that affect them in their day-to-day life. And because of that, around May, when the George Floyd protest really took center stage of like American media, and everyone was really talking on them in social media and in TV media, everything that's being displayed, a bunch of members on the youth council felt that it was very necessary that the city take like actual policy action in the work they're doing, like to defund the police, to implement or like funding for organizations that directly serve minority populations in Richmond, the ones that are truly impacted. And we started to draft a resolution because that's kind of the only real power we had. Right. So me and a group of, I would say, around 2 to 3 other people, like stayed up night after night, like week after week, like doing research to what we should put in the solution, how resolutions are supposed to be formatted, and we ended up creating a really like thorough presentation and presented it to the city council on July 28th, 2020, where it was passed unanimously. And after that like happened and chokeholds were banned and no knock warrants were banned. Thank you so much. After all these, after the city council kind of resolved legally to tackle all these changes, absolutely nothing happened. And that kind of like... So like they just passed it to like quiet everyone down. Yeah, and they passed it unanimously as well. And I think the biggest thing about that was the fact that because it was a group of like youth, like bringing this to their attention, obviously they weren't going to all flat out reject it, even if they didn't agree with it, which I feel like certain council members on the board, based off their previous and now actions that they have taken since that resolution, just definitely didn't agree with it. But again, it was like for show. And I feel like I personally didn't want it to be for show. I wanted to actually mean something in the city. So when it didn't do anything, me and a bunch of our other members of the city council felt like it was time to like actually hold these people accountable and like ask them like directly, like, hey, like, what is your plan? What is like, what are some things we could touch on? So instead of just telling us this to like quiet everyone down. Yeah. Kind of like what I've heard where there was this protest where they wanted to lower tuition prices in some college and like, okay, we'll lower it. And they didn't tell them how much. It was just like $5. It's like just to quiet everyone down, you know? There was no plans put in place. Just like, okay, we're going to do it. And then like, we'll do it eventually.
Even though you guys did all the work for them.
We did some of the work. I'm not going to take all the credit for the resolution part because that was literally just like asking them to implement policies to like adhering to this resolution. But yeah, we held a town hall in November. We organized one where we got the chief of police, we got the mayor, we got Demlis Johnson, who's our now vice mayor, and we got school board trustee members, school district board members to literally ask some questions about anti-racism education being implemented in the West Contra Costa Unified School District, as well as policies that Richmond lawmakers can make in conjunction with the chief of police to actually implement some of the changes that we proposed, like defunding the police. And we directly asked them, like, hey, literally, what's your plan? Why do you feel like we should defund the police or we shouldn't? And honestly, I think that although that night was successful in showing these adults that, like, we, the youth, are here to, like, stay and we're here to start, like, changing the city for our benefit. Right. Again, like, nothing really happened. It was a bunch of closed doors. It was a bunch of, like, just looping around, answers not being thoroughly answered and just, like, deflecting. So again, like, that's really when the, like, members of the city council were like, we're literally not going to be able to get anywhere within our position as city, like, youth city council members, so we have to, like, branch out into community organizations. So that's when me and the certain members of the council, like Jocelyn Consuvong, started really, like, working in the community and trying to, like, address issues with what we could do. So originally we just had, like, racial healing circles, and we met with school teachers to try and ask if, like, they're members of the city council, of, like, their students that would like to join the city youth council to, like, help bring new ideas. We, like, got together with certain groups, like, try and finance projects, and unfortunately fell through because we just didn't have the support from the city. Like, even now we're still trying to build a treasury so we could, like, fund projects directly through us. So, like, that's kind of frustrating how the city's not helping us, but it's definitely not, like, as frustrating in comparison to what you guys have gone through or to what the rest of the Richmond citizens have gone through.
And you guys have had events recently, right? Like, I know you guys did something, was it, like, last week?
Yeah. So, let's go ahead, just in case. So we have had some stuff in the last couple of weeks. So all of this, Ozmar, I mean, 17 years old, like, really the fucking youth here, like, really
props
about
you,
this shit, you know.
When I look at, like, young people doing this,
JD, you're young. I know. Don't look it, but you're young.
I'm not young anymore. When I was their age, I was like, I was not doing that.
I don't think anybody was.
I see you guys and, like, yeah, right, yeah.
I wasn't.
So you feel like what I feel like. I'm proud of you. I'm proud to see you guys taking action, you know?
Actually, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you went to Salesian.
Yeah,
and I was going to ask you, because before we started the interview, I was thinking, you look really familiar. I went to Salesian too. The whole band actually did.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, how do you see the school now with just the amount of social media that's grown? You know, things are getting brought to light that we would never talk about in high school. I graduated in 2013, so, you know, from before then until 2013, we weren't in the social justice issues, you know, groups talking about this. How could we change Richmond? We were trying to figure out if we were going to graduate or not. You know what I mean? But to put yourselves out there at such a young age, do you see the school itself or the kids themselves just, like, growing in that way? And do you guys see that, like, working with him? Do you guys see that kids are more involved? Right.
Unfortunately, I think that the reason why so many teenagers are starting to get really involved in this is just because they see, like, the state of our world and, more importantly, our future as, like, incredibly bleak. And if anything, like, really awful. Like, between climate change and changing geopolitical allyships and just even domestically, like, this country is just so polarized and on the brink of, honestly, everything at this point. Like, so much has happened, and these, like, stuff, like, in the short months we were in the pandemic, which I only think forced a lot of people to grow up a lot faster. But, like, previously, to answer your question, Marcos, how has, like, the school, like, responded or anything? Or what I've noticed is that, in a way, a lot of the adults in the situation don't really address anything. And it's really the youth and the teens there that are like, hey, can we talk about literally what just happened last night?
Right.
Or they would bring in certain, like, issues, like hot button issues like abortion or sexual assault or gun control in like a Catholic school, which is incredibly like controversial and which our administration has failed to address completely. And it's just like there just continues to be like, I guess, the image of like Catholicism and maybe probably just ignorance, like contrasting like these young ideas that are being brought in like every freshman class. And while I do think that our school has previously done like a pretty bad job at like addressing all these like big changes that the youth are asking for, it's really nice to know that, like, for example, like our youth are stepping up, like they're going directly to teachers and asking, hey, can I head this? Hey, can I talk to the teacher? Can I talk to the dean to talk about how there's no sexual reproduction education on our campus? And even though there still may be like pushback and lots of no's, the fact that there's always going to be like a group of people present and like willing to change their community because they just want it for themselves and for the betterment of everyone is just really nice to see, because like that's really like what's going to go on into our world. And like these people who want to change the world and who are like bringing things to attention and speaking truth to power are really going to be in power soon. And like honestly, it's really nice to see how all these people are really morally and ethically driven. Like it's not self-preservation or like self-indulgence. It really is like, let me just benefit my community and stop suffering on this planet. Right. So like no,
that's a good point. Another thing that ties into this, what you just said earlier, like I graduated 2008, so like I remember like the two biggest things that happened when I was going to school when I was at a young age was like Columbine and 9/11. And those were catastrophic back then. They made a big deal out of it. In your generation, you guys that are a little younger, it's like every week
there's a Columbine.
There's a Columbine every other month. And
there's a 9/11 all over the world all the time.
There's no Columbine this week, but there is going to be another 9/11 in Palestine, or there's another. And it's just like, there's eyes everywhere now. Cameras are available. So we're seeing the worst of the worst, unfortunately. And like you said, the pandemic forced a lot of people to grow up. And
it's nice to hear you say what you're saying, because teachers, they don't want to change things. Adults don't want to change things.
We're very comfortable.
You go to the mainstream media, they don't care. And so it's nice to see that young people do, even though mainstream information isn't coming to you. You have to kind of search it yourself.
Especially growing up in Richmond. I mean, the stigma already is, we grew up, you couldn't wear certain colors. You got to be wary of this. You got to be wary of that. Right?
We're all thugs.
We're all, whatever.
Yeah.
You might be you might be the first one pregnant and blah, blah, blah. Just like you said, there's none of these classes teaching you about, the racism that's really going on. Why are we finding this out for ourselves on Instagram or Facebook and stuff? Why aren't we, discussing it as a group? You could be changing the minds of plenty of kids who maybe have some really messed up, parents' thoughts or something like that. You know what I mean?
And then when you grow up in that environment, like in the hood, you think it's like that everywhere else, because you're not, it's not like that over there. So then like, why can't we be like that?
Right.
But
we can be. We can be. And that's if we educate everyone about it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No. You mentioned something that you were about the stuff that's happening recently.
Yeah. So essentially, with all of this work with Ozmar and with Richmond Revolution, there are big changes happening like right now that people may not be even aware of. And one of them is that the task force put up 5 recommendations that were actually approved by City Council. So City Council voted on these public safety recommendations, and they're addressing things from racial disparities in traffic violations to gun prevention, youth unemployment, homelessness, and mental health crisis line. And
that's huge.
Mental health is so big. Like people don't really understand like how police officers are not mental health workers. Like they should not actually be going into a person's home or apartment or anywhere that's in the middle of a mental health crisis, right? And how incredibly scary it is to, like, I've heard police officers say, like, Oh, as soon as I know that they're uncooperative, we just arrest them right then and there. Like, that's all you need to be. You're not breaking a fucking law. You're actually just being uncooperative to one person, and they're able to actually just arrest you on the fact that you're uncooperative. And so instead of calling 911, we're starting to do a 311 number, which like we all knew for like information type of shit, like, or like 411, these type, those stuff. Yeah. So 311 is for like government services, but essentially we got it approved that if folks in Richmond called 311, instead of an armed guard coming up to you when you're in crisis, you would get a medic that would be able to actually help with any type of suicide attempt or drug use, to make sure that your physical body is okay. And then you would actually, it would be a team of 3. The other 2 are community crisis responders. And they're trained in like mental health first aid, harm reduction, de-escalation, the shit that RPD has never wanted to do, was never trained to do. And we would actually have folks going in to help de-escalate a situation instead of arresting folks, right?
I've heard of that a lot, where growing up, where like, you know, one of the homies, he had probably already had some mental issues and he did some drug, because you know how it is, and partying, and he's freaking out, and he gets arrested, and he looks like he's resisting, but he's just, you know, when you're, I don't know if anyone has ever been on like crazy drugs, you just need to like, you know, like it's one of those things, you got to get up, spaz out, you need to like, you know, you're shaking everywhere. And like a cop sees that, unfortunately, they're, like you said, they're not trained.
Yep.
It's a threat. It's a threat. Yeah, he's resisting. Like, nah, dude, you don't know what I'm feeling. Like, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of changes right now in Richmond, and like even this stuff right here, like the Voice Party, like what y'all are doing and bringing comedy to the forefront, and just bringing folks, like Richmond raised folks, into spaces that we had to create. Like y'all had to create this, and I had to thank JD for the comedy show the other night, because there were hella community organizers, and like afterwards we were texting and we were just like, damn, like that's what Richmond is about. Like we could do so much more than this like idea that we're all criminals and thugs and young mothers.
We're funny thugs. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I appreciate that, because that's the only thing I can offer. You know, I mean, aside from this, I feel like, you know, with what we do, like that's our way of like, you know, like, okay, this may happen, but there's also a comedy show.
Yes. It's super healing, because I think that's the biggest thing right now, is like doing the work is hella hard. Like we can get frustrated. We can like,
no one's listening.
Nobody's listening.
Nobody cares.
And then hearing some of the racist ass shit that people say, like in these calls and stuff. The mayor himself is batshit bananas.
I've heard.
Yeah, like
I've heard.
Yeah, Ozmar can go on about him forever.
He's actually our next guest. No, I'm just kidding.
He's waiting outside.
He's waiting outside.
Hey, wait over there. We're not done yet.
Exactly. We're going to go through the back door, actually.
He's going to be interviewed by the Voice of the Party podcast.
Oh, of course. The other one, the rival.
He's going to be the voice of the party there.
Yeah, you guys here, and the Voice of the Party is going to interview the mayor.
It'll be way better.
He's going to talk about us. No, I'm just kidding.
Just right behind the
curtain.
At the same time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, I've heard stuff, that like when
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and like I know that this is kind of one of the Richmond City Council members that we had on the show. I'm trying to think of his name.
Melvin Willis?
No, the other.
Demlis Johnson?
He's no longer there.
Ben Choi?
Jaleel.
Oh, JL.
Oh, JL Merrick.
He mentioned that incident that happened on that Zoom meeting with the city council members. I don't know if you guys read where he called for defunding the police, but he was joking.
Okay, so here's the issue I have with Mayor Thomas Butt.
Or what I like to call Mayor Ass.
When we actually had the protest, he walks up with his assistant, Chris Whitmore, who is a black man. And Chris walks up to me. Mind you, Mayor Butt is right here. Hey, so the mayor wants to know if he can speak. And I'm like, can the mayor speak for himself? One, why you have this black man speaking for you?
Oh, I see.
And then the other thing, and I told him straight up, no, but what you can do is speak to us after, the protest is done. We can have this one-on-one dialogue where we can actually talk policy change. Mm-hmm. And so Chris Whitmore says, so you're telling me the mayor can't speak on his own city hall steps? I said, yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
He's not the owner.
Exactly.
How about the mayor listens? How about that?
And so what Mayor Thomas Butt does is he goes and grabs this Black Lives Matter poster board, because we made posters and signages, and he takes a picture, ching, and leaves. And I'm just like,
that's like when a comic goes and takes a picture on the stage and he never performed. So, yeah.
Very
that's
performative at its best.
Performative.
That says a lot. Wow.
Yeah, just in a nutshell.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
He bombed that set. Oh, no.
He bombed that set. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, for your movement, you have no support from the city whatsoever.
So we do, actually. We had the vote was 5-2. Mayor Butt was actually not there, and then the other city council member, Nat Bates, was also not there.
Yeah.
He was there for like 10 seconds.
Apparently showed up and then came back. Just to hear audio.
You guys should set up a picture booth. That way they can just, in
a Zoom 1-2 little screen. Exactly. And so we ended up passing all of our proposals, which 5-2 because 2 were absent. Mm-hmm. And so we do actually have majority city council support in these recommendations. And essentially it boils down to money. That's the biggest fight. And Richmond folks, I always feel like we're about our money. We understand money real well, whether you came from it or not, you understand it. Yeah. And when you follow the money, looking at our city budget, and our city general fund is made up of all of our money. It's our taxes, it's our property taxes, all of that. 40% of it, or $67 million, goes to RPD.
67 million dollars. That's 40%.
40% of the actual general fund goes to RPD. And RPD has a lot of sworn officers that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Wow. 2, 3, 4. The highest paid was over $400,000 for one officer.
And how much education do they need?
None. You actually don't need even a community college degree. You don't need to take any type of classes. You go to the academy.
Right.
And then you're able to join the force.
When you see the amount of benefits they receive over $100,000 in benefits. What do you need with all that? These are all sources of funding that could be better used by our city, which is what Reimagine Richmond is doing.
Compared to other cities, how does that look?
It's usually about half. I know in Antioch it's about the same. And I have a friend who did research, and every city that she looked at, it was about the same. About half of the money goes to the police. Yeah. And often they're just doing so much overtime.
You said Antioch though, but
let's be careful there, because that's a real big generalization, because we compared Richmond to 25 of the largest cities nationally, and we come in 5th per capita spending.
Dang.
And so also be careful with that narrative, Primo, solamente because there's a lot of rich, Santa Rosa, Danville, all of those. When you look at those communities that have hella money, their police force isn't 50% because they're putting it into the arts. They're putting it into performing centers and parks and recs and their lakes and all of these other things.
Education.
It's within Black and brown communities that we're spending, because we've been over policed, right? And so really be careful, because this whole average thing of everybody does it. Well, then it becomes normalized that that's the way it should be. And that's where it's no. Why are we starved of resources? Our community services are 2.8% of the budget versus 40% of the budget. Library is 3% of the budget versus 40%.
I remember when I was in middle school, I kind of saw the decline of there's less instruments. I was band class growing up.
Yes.
And there was less instruments from the beginning of 6th grade, 5th grade when I started band, and then in elementary school, and then I went to middle school, and it looked like there was more resources, different class, different, cooking classes, all kinds of different stuff, wood shop. And then that's also before I saw that like cops were more militarized as they are now. Back then it would look like the funny hats with the stop right there, and then it just evolved to like where like they're super soldiers walking around the school, and there's less stuff, there's less instruments. Sorry guys, no more saxophone.
Yeah, and Armand can talk a lot about that because he helps get officers out of the schools. So West Contra Costa Unified School District no longer has. Go ahead, do it.
So the West Contra Costa Unified School District, or WCCUSD, canceled all their contracts with local police departments, and they decided from a resolution that they would then take that money and redirect it to services for black students, essentially. But where has that money been spent? We got to actually look deeper into that because we don't really think that money went to where they're saying. Exactly.
You got to it seems like you got to put every detail of where it's going, and it's like.
But then why are we doing the work for y'all?
Yeah.
Then why aren't they getting paid then?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I would like some money over here. Okay?
Right.
Yeah. Like that doesn't make sense, and it also says on what power do these people really have in power? Because if I'm doing all the work and then you just say yes, but by the way I'm keeping all the money, this is the mob.
Yeah, exactly. I think so, and like that's really big with like student resource officers getting them SROs out of the actual classroom because they were the ones going in and like harassing students, pulling them out of classes. It wasn't like just, go down the hall anymore, right? Like go to your detention. It became like, no, officer so-and-so, you need to come and get this student. And disproportionately, it was young black girls getting expelled.
Well, we've seen
suspended.
The videos come out every week.
Hello.
Even kids just getting beat.
Right.
Yeah,
Or like tased and stuff. Like how do you couldn't deal with the 16-year-old?
I saw that in school. Well, no, good.
No, I was going to say my 8-year-old male cousin in Sacramento threw a tantrum, and the police was called on him, and he was handcuffed. Wow. And I was like, that is sick.
Yeah.
You can't handle an 8-year-old? You can't. Right. I mean, you need to put handcuffs on an 8-year-old?
Stop resisting.
Right.
Yeah, and I saw that with like, because the people I hung out with were skateboarding, and like that's when I started seeing more. There was incidents where there was like shootouts at Richmond High from outside people that just happened to come in, which was like, I mean, it was a different time, but it just like the students, the security couldn't do it, so now we're bringing the cops in, and like they're wrestling, two big old 6-foot cops are wrestling this 14-year-old, to the floor, and it's like, dude, like that's.
And people actually brought that up. Like, what if there's a school shooting? But really, the protocol is the officer can't respond until backup arrives anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
he has to wait outside, right?
Yeah. So it's like,
give me the gun, I'll go in myself. I play many video games. I got this.
Exactly, Call of Duty. Exactly.
It's just illogical, the way these folks think.
Yeah.
And scary at the same time.
Right.
Very scary, absolutely. But there's movement.
There's a movement, and it is definitely. I grew up in Richmond for most of my life. It's definitely not 90s Richmond anymore.
Claro.
That's the good thing about it, where it's like now it's like, yo, dude, put your hand off the trigger. Like with the whole city, like it's not. The violence has decreased a lot in Richmond over the last 10 years.
Absolutely, and there's like multiple reasons, of course. Like,
and I want to say this is part of it.
Yeah, these are the changes, and like even the Voice Party, like taking over Bridge Art Storage, and like different folks going into city halls, protesting, like all of that is so huge. And I'm not saying that to discount any other movement or any other riot or anything in Richmond, but like. It's progressive and it's quick moving right now. Yeah. Like we're doing stuff. I just got a call from San Francisco Chronicle, and they were like, we want to interview you because we actually think that Richmond is going to outdo Oakland in their public safety stuff.
Wow.
And like, that is huge. Yeah. Like they're looking at Richmond, and that's what I say, like people don't understand. We could actually be a model. Like I told him last night, I was like, let's get Netflix docuseries.
Yes.
Bitch. Like there's shit here that like the way we're organizing, hella rogue, hella guerrilla, like we're just gonna take it and do it. Like we're not
going through the social media gutter.
Oh, sorry. When you, I couldn't hear that.
Oh, I was just saying we were going through like the social media gutter for a little bit in regards to what she said about like guerrilla warfare, grassroots organizing. Like we were directly DMing people our posts like, hey, little blurb like what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish. Would you mind posting? And they'll be like, yes. And that was nice.
And that's where it gets tricky too, where like when you hear defund police, they're like, oh, like let's stay away from them. Right. We don't want any part of that.
Yeah, the defund movement's an interesting movement. Anybody want to talk on that?
Yeah, well, it's really all about saying, the foot of the state has been on our necks far too long. And what we're saying is that we as a people, we're not willing to just survive, right? We need to thrive. And we know that, black and brown folks can thrive under pressure, but imagine what we can really do if our communities were fully resourced. And so it's a little scary because the police and people who are backing the police and how they think that it's their money, right?
Yes.
Right. Y'all taking money from the police department. It's like, wait, this is not y'all money. I mean, for a long time,
it's our taxes.
This money, it's our taxes. But for a long time, this money has been going to your department, but you're not owed that money. So I think we as a people have a right to say where the hell our money goes. So
yeah.
Well, now this goes back to talking about it in schools and bringing it back up at home and stuff like that. The education, because I think when you're like, people want to stay away from like, defund the police, people like that. And you're like, no. If you actually take the time to hear us out, take the time to understand what this actually means. It's not just saying, take all their money away. We still need police. But, once you educate yourself on the topic and on what the movement is really about, then you start, really understanding, well, that's not that bad of an idea. I mean...
And I think it's so important to have grace on folks too, because even within this 8-month period that the task force has been alive, we've actually changed a couple of folks. And I myself have to admit, I didn't really become radical till after I got out of high school. It wasn't until I took my first class, in African American studies. It was like, oh shit, somebody lied to me. And I was pissed for a long time, and I still am mad. So that's part of my, my fight. But like I said, it's so important to have these conversations and to have grace on folks, because you don't know who you'll change. You don't know who will come on your side, and it's so important that we understand how to win people over as well.
And it's crazy to say this, but like I'm sure you've talked to police officers that agree with you at some point, right?
Yeah, actually, even the president of the Police Officers Union, which is the most corrupt union, and I don't understand why they have a union, but okay. He's actually literally said, like, we're not mental health workers.
Right.
Like, we don't want to do that stuff either.
Yeah.
For a long time, this like community policing model has been reliant, and it sounds like a beautiful thing. Like, ooh, community policing. Yeah. No, what essentially it's the police addressing every community need.
Yeah.
So they have literally become the mental health workers, the homelessness enforcers, the like getting youth off the streets and so forth. And that's why these proposals are so, what people would say, like radical, even though they're not even radical. It's like, we're literally addressing the root of the problem.
They've existed even before police forces existed.
Claro. Yeah. It's like community care, collective care. And when we surveyed people, like asking what safety was to them, a lot of folks have felt in Richmond that we make each other safe, right? Like I call on my primos and my neighbors and my homies to like help me with anything that I need. I would never call RPD for shit.
Get the strap. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so like literally, I'm just like, what the fuck? You guys think about all these things in like this black and white world, you know, but there's no color. Like POC, like we bring that color, and we've been doing care for a lot longer and a lot better, honestly, than RPD has ever been trained and equipped to. So like for all the haters that are like, oh, we're gonna lose police officers, it's like, no, we're actually allowing them to do the investigative shit that they were trained to do. And not actually go into mental health crisis. Because guess what? We have a mental health crisis worker. Guess what? We have people working in homelessness encampments to make sure that they're sanitary and clean and there's water and get them into transitional villages. Like, also, like, just about the proposals, one of the things that I'm most proud of, and that we're hella behind on San Francisco and Oakland, is that we're going to have actual transitional housing villages for homeless folks.
Wow.
So, like...
It's amazing.
Right. Like, why don't we have that? One for single folks and then one for familias.
Yeah.
Families that are usually barred from shit because they have little ones. They don't get the access to the programs. You know, you have to have certain everything.
And with rent going up, there's a lot more now.
And with the pandemic, the evictions, there's hella folks. Over 1,000 folks in our city in Richmond are unhoused right now.
Wow.
Yeah, like living in their cars. And that's not even talking about, like, I have hella familia that is just like couch to couch, and they don't really consider themselves unhoused, right? Because they have a shelter, like they have someplace, but they don't actually have a room, a bathroom, their own private, stable, sustainable place. And so, like, to me, when I was like, oh shit, we can actually have transitional villages here to get people into long-term housing, I was like, come on, that's a no-brainer, y'all. Like, what are y'all fighting about this?
And to Marisol's point, the community has always taken care of the community. I think of the Black Panther Party, who, you know, was prominent in Oakland and in Richmond.
Hell yeah.
People don't know that, but the Black Panther Party really did work, you know, in the streets of Richmond.
And Richmond was one of the
after the
hubs,
shooting and killing of Denzel Dowell.
Yes.
RPD murdered, you know, and so it's so important.
And they started the free lunch thing, right?
Exactly, that's my point. And you know, J. Edgar Hoover, who was the FBI director at the time, you know what he said the biggest threat was?
The Black Panthers.
That food program. They didn't want the community taken care of.
And he didn't go after the mob who was doing some shady shit. He went after the Black Panthers instead.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've been doing it a lot longer. We're going to continue to keep on doing it.
Gotcha.
And yeah.
That's good. And you also have something that you guys, like, when you and I first talked about this, there's something coming up in the end of May.
So the end of June, we'll actually be voting on the budget. So the way the budget cycle works is right now, all the departments in the city are like putting up their budgets, saying like, can we get more money? Can we get some more full-time employees? Can we get this and that? And essentially goes to the city manager. But by the end of June, right now, at the end of June, we would be able to, city council would vote on the actual budget. And that's divesting $10.3 million from RPD. And the city council has already voted to include that in this year's budget. And so which is about 15%. It's not even the 20% that we were calling for last year.
You said $10.3
$10.3 million from the $67 million fund of RPD.
You still would have the most.
They would still have the most.
Yeah.
Like, let's be 100. They would still have the most.
Of that 10.3 coming out, a little bit of that. Can that
I
go
will
to the
give
voice
you
party?
$1 if you strip. Yes.
All right. Okay.
He was gonna do it anyways.
I was gonna do it anyways. But all right. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
That's a good starting.
That's a great starting point. And like, think about this. Like, if y'all were to get like nonprofit or like just a community-based org, essentially how we're addressing our youth employment is by reallocating of that 10 to back into Youth Works. And Youth Works is a city program that you essentially get paid by the city to work in nonprofits, other government jobs, small businesses, shit like this, community-based organizations. So y'all wanted to hire some like youth workers to do audio and all of that. Like, that would have, you guys would have that, like, access to that.
I was just joking, but if there's something like that, hey,
hello, that's what I'm telling you. Like,
I'm the most uninformed person when it comes to this thing. So, hey,
well, you know, I was gonna say we used to be part of a program called RPAL.
RPAL. Yeah.
That's actually where like our band really started learning how to perform and stuff like that. And when we were there, it was actually, it's crazy to see how much it dropped off. Because, you know, we love some of the people there, you know, the beginning. And then when we weren't getting the funding for after, you know, they built us a brand new recording studio. And it was like super cool for after school program. Anyone could join. You just book some time. You learn how to use all the equipment. There was a bike room where you could learn how to fix your own bicycles. And then at the end of the program, you got to keep it or something like that. Like, it was super cool. But like, you built one from scratch. There was a bunch of other stuff, right? Basketball program. You had boxing program, right?
Yep.
That's like the only thing still striving right now. But I'm like, when we started, to head out, we had noticed that the programs had just died.
Yep.
Bike program was done. The basketball program, they were doing like games for cops versus firefighters, but not for the kids. The boxing program was the last thing standing, and once we left the studio, it was like some adults that just took it over, and they didn't let like kids really, enjoy it. But I mean, they didn't have the money they were coming in, kind of paying for it. They weren't getting no support.
Yeah.
Half that building is a ghost town now.
And the thing is that like a lot of the city departments, and RPAL is kind of under the umbrella of RPD. It's the Richmond Police Activities League.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when we ask like nonprofits to go for money, like we ask them, go to grants, go to the county, go get state funding, right? Go get federal funding, right? Mm-hmm. We never ask the police to go get extra funding because we are fully funding them. But everybody else, your program these programs fell off because there was no funding, right? And it's like, it comes back down to the money and the funding of everything of like, this isn't just fully defunding, it's a reinvestment, and actually what I like to call a refund to Black and brown communities.
But Marisol, you don't live on the south side of Richmond.
Oh, that's the famous thing. They see like my art in the background and shit, and they're like, all these gentrifiers, and I'm like, all right, okay, we got that. Yeah, we're here. We're all Richmond, raised, born, everything else. We represent the community, even though there's a lot of naysayers, homeowners in particular, that just want to say that we're not from the community. But then again, we aren't from their community. Their community is very small.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
So can you say again the exact date?
Oh
that's
yeah.
gonna happen?
So
because I want our listeners, because the majority of our listeners are from Richmond.
Yes.
Like, that's who we're speaking to right now, and like if it's something that we want to mobilize everybody to go and support, because this is important for the generations after them. Like you guys are working for the generations after you, essentially. I mean, you're gonna get a splash of it, but it's seeing it happen is already, seeing what you're seeing is already like a win, but it's the little ones that we,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say a specific date because it hasn't been decided on, but it is mid-June. I will say that the call to real action is to join the movement, and that's following Richmond Revolution, Richmond.Revolution on IG. That's following at Reimagine Richmond with us. We have weekly meetings on Thursdays at 6 o'clock. All community members are welcome to join. Right now we're doing text banking, we're doing phone banking, we're coalition building, we're talking about implementation of these programs. We're working with city staff to get all this shit done because the mayor wants us to fail. Like he's ready. He's ready to be like, oops.
It's going to be a wave of crime.
Yep, everybody's threatening. Oh my God, there's going to be such a wave of crime. Now that might have a certain amount of police officers on, but really, it's to just join the movement, follow us, get involved in whatever capacity that is. We had people come on one meeting and started text banking. They're like, oh shit, this is fun. We can like text people about defunding the police and shit. Like,
and 10.3 isn't gonna. That's gonna not put a dent in numbers at all.
Exactly.
That's just sorry guys, no Christmas party this year.
Literally,
I don't know. I don't know what that means, but it's not.
No dessert at the Christmas party.
Exactly.
Well, what's sad is that 10.3 million could be so beneficial to
the community.
Yeah,
right.
And that's
to stuff that you guys want to do.
Exactly. The transitional
and like I said,
villages.
what's it going to take away their 20 Christmas parties?
Yeah, the
or
overtime
or their bonuses.
The golf trip.
Yeah.
The new Chargers that they get.
Yeah.
And it's going to a good cause. It's not like we want to open a new whatever club in Richmond.
We're not.
Yeah. It's going to something good, and like you said, hopefully this turns into dealing with certain things that don't need guns involved.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's
I would
where
even
we're
say
at.
we just getting started.
Yeah,
hopefully.
this is it. Yeah, like,
100%.
and that's why we need folks to, one, just like spread the news. Like, the more people hire people from Youth Works, the more people know to call 311 instead of 911 for mental health crises. Like, all of that is going to be super important to show the city, like, this shit works.
Yeah.
And like, we want to continue to do it because, like Armand is saying, we're not even getting to the fucking systemic, like, oppressive system of the police. Like, we're not even getting, this is low hanging fruit here. Right. Like, we're really just homelessness, mental health, youth employment. Like, how can people not get really behind that shit? We're not talking about going after dogs and going after the chargers that they're buying and the helicopters and like all that shit. We're not even there yet. And so I like that, Armand. We're just getting started.
And you have access to information on all that on your page on the Richmond Revolution?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, so we've been working together.
Right.
So whenever we post, we sort of share that information.
Okay.
I wanted to ask before we moved on to what do you think contributed to the decrease in violence in Richmond over these last 10-ish years?
There's a lot. That's a heavy loaded question. One, because as a researcher in my life, like, it's hard to pinpoint like phenomena on like specific things, right? There's been a lot of conversation around gentrification, for sure. Right. We also have to look at, let's be 100, Black flight that was caused by Latino majority moving in to our spaces. We're 42% now, demographics Latino now, versus 22% Black folks. Now they're out here in the East, they're Antioch and Pittsburgh and so forth, Sacramento, etc. So there's a lot. There is, in regards to like the police, like, a lot of people talk about Chris Magnus. He was one of these like police chiefs, and he was so like down. He held the Black Lives Matter sign, and like it was a whole thing.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it made national news.
Doing, like, Border Patrol.
Now he's doing Border Patrol for Biden. Yeah, it's just some shit.
So systemic racism.
Yeah,
it's all a show.
Right. Yeah,
I mean,
that's it. It's performative. Yeah, really. But I think that it's too hard to say explicitly what it is, because there would really have to be a case study and like a lot more research done into what has really changed. The demographics have shifted, absolutely. Home ownership has shifted, different types of folks buying homes. Now we have the progressive majority. Progressive to me is kind of a dirty word now, because like it took over the new liberals, these like white do-gooder liberals, but like I'm more into like radical transformative change, like progressives. And so like there's a lot changing that has shaped the city. I mean, Point Malate, talking about indigenous lands, they're going after that, community development, we have Marina Bay, like a lot of different stuff could be attributed, but it's very, very difficult to like pinpoint like on one thing that has really changed. But crime, you're absolutely right. Crime has definitely gone down in the last 10 years. We can feel it, right?
Yeah, like, definitely. I had a theory on what,
Tell me.
I don't know, I mean, it's just my experience, because, growing up where I grew up, I saw a lot of crazy shit, and friends murdered growing up in like middle school, high school, and then now that I'm adults and I talk to my friends who are adults, it's like, like we have a form of PTSD from some of that stuff. And I mentioned that on the podcast before. Like, and now that some of us are, we have little ones and we don't want them to go through the shit that we went through. So why don't we all just, let's do some stand-up instead. Let's tell some jokes, or let's do other things. Because we know how bad things were at one point, where like, everyone's there's shootouts everywhere. There was, people with machine guns running down the street in North Richmond, and you're at a stop sign like, and, now that we are we are the pulse of the city, we don't want that to happen anymore. And I think a lot of that changed a lot of the people, now there's more
also understanding where did the guns come from.
Exactly.
Where did the drugs come from? Like,
hello.
It's just a part of that revolving system that wants to keep, us down.
That's good that you said that too, because I was going to ask, I was like, is it going to be disrespectful to say like people just got tired of that.
Yeah.
You know, like like you said, now you have kids.
I don't have kids.
No, I mean, but now, like, you're
just giving him kids. It's fine.
Well, I don't know if I have kids.
He's got like 6 that he told me not to say. No, but you know what I mean? Like, our friends are having kids now too and stuff like that, of course. And we're still living here. Some of us still living with our folks and stuff like that. So, yeah, we've seen our neighborhood change. Actually, when I was telling JD, because we were
it's too
together,
expensive to do gangster shit.
Yeah, it's too expensive. No,
drugs prices have gone up.
100%. But like I was even telling JD a couple days ago when I was at Salesian, we weren't allowed to wear our red shirts.
Oh yeah,
the red polos.
Yeah,
we had to wear when you left the campus. You had to put your sweatshirt on, right? Your black Salesian sweatshirt on, just because like it.
Look where we are.
Yeah, look where we were. You weren't wearing that, you know. We couldn't wear down our street at one point when we were kids. This was kind of a crazy thing too. We had a Vietnamese gang that lived like 4 houses down from us. And one night we were having a family party, and when my family left, they go, "Hey, yo, your neighbor's lawn's on fire." And that for a whole week started. It was a back and forth, but just at that house. And so you heard gunshots. You heard we had the FBI raid our block one day, and all the kids were playing out in the front yard. And everyone
know where you live now.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
You've been to my house, I think.
No.
No,
maybe he hasn't. No. Okay,
but now I know where it is.
But now you know. You know, but you know that story, huh?
Yeah. Wow.
So I mean, when we had, it was just insane. Oh, and they had. Blue was our street for some reason. Like none of us, we were already there was more families, there was younger couples, like even some whiter couples that would move in from like Virginia and stuff like we had already had that kind of moving in. And so, none of us were out here gangbanging or nothing, but we got claimed, and we're like, yo, no, we're cleaning all this up. Like all the neighbors would come and we'd help each other paint the fence.
Suit up, homie.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, we would like stain fences and stuff like every weekend because we kept getting tagged. We're like, no, guys.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's just tired of that shit too.
Yeah.
And there's been programs, the Office of Neighborhood Safety, which is also what we're funding. They're true crime prevention. Like those folks, Sam Vaughn, who's a director, and Devon, who started it about 10 years ago, started in 2008, in height of kind of crime going on. They had folks who had been impacted by the system going boots on the ground, straight up, like, hey homies, y'all need to chill off. They did last year 28 ceasefires. The Office of Neighborhood Safety, not the police. Okay, so let's be.
My buddy actually worked that. Chris, big hair, you know him?
Oh.
Chris.
I probably seen him in a picture or two.
Mejia, yeah, he did that. He was part of that. He told me some crazy stories.
Crazy ass shit, right?
Yeah.
But like, we have to remember, police react to crime. They show up after. They do not prevent it. And so we wanted to, again, just go to the people that were preventing crime, working with the different gang affiliations or drug affiliations, etc., and just saying like,
I have a story for you actually.
Just do it.
I actually used to work with, when I was working cable, I was working as a lineman. There was a guy who I worked with who was an ex-cop from Richmond. And he told me a lot of crazy stories. And one of the things that he said is, our investigating is really poor because whoever, like yesterday's suspect is tomorrow's victim. That's the thing they have. They know the guy that shot this guy today, he's going to be dead tomorrow. It's like, so yeah, we can go investigate, but we'll find him tomorrow. They'll find him for us.
Yeah.
And that's why he, that's one of the things that he mentioned that like caused him to not, want to be there, but I don't want to say his name because he told me some stuff that, but that's what he said, that's the thing about Richmond. Like, and I'm sure that's the case with a lot of big cities where it's the funding, where it's like that, where it's a lot of crime. It's like, don't bother, he'll turn up tomorrow, shot. And that's why that program,
Office of Neighborhood Safety is incredible.
A ceasefire.
Yeah, they're doing the ceasefires. They're taking guns off the street. They're actually preventing these homicide incidents. It costs the city $1 million every homicide.
Wow.
You mean they could pay for my undergraduate degree and my law school degree? What?
Right, exactly.
And still have some money left.
Right. And so, ONS, Office of Neighborhood Safety, is just nationally recognized. Now they're going, they're in Stockton, Sacramento, they're in Fort Worth, like that type advanced piece. That model has The Guardian's written on it, fucking ABC has written on it, like just nationally recognized. And it started right here. And so it's like, when I say we could lead this movement, like, I'm dead ass serious. There's no joke about it. We've already done some innovative stuff because of crime. Right. Because we've had to think creatively and collaboratively to figure out this stuff.
Because the stuff we were doing wasn't working.
Hello.
They were doing, you know? So, like, yeah.
That's it. So we're doing it.
We are at an hour now. I don't know if you guys realize that. It doesn't feel like it does sometimes. The time doesn't exist when we're in this little space. Yes. Before we finish off, I just want to have you guys each give your final piece and like where our listeners can find you and how they can get involved, or if they want to get in contact with you personally. Like, I'll have you start since you started earlier.
Yeah. I just want to say though, I think it's so important that we keep what I call freedom dreams and keep those alive. It came out of the tradition of Robin D.G. Kelly, who came out of the Black radical tradition, and it's really about imagining, right, a world where, you know, we can live, you know, peaceably, where we can live free lives, where we can, you know, walk down the street and not have to be gunned down because we're black or we're brown or we're Asian, right. Yeah. And so I think it's so important that we keep that in mind, because, you know, I come from those who have been, you know, kidnapped and enslaved, and I'm sure, you know, then at that moment they imagine, you know, there's got to be something other than this. Right. And so that's why I have to do the work, because down the line, you know, in generations to come, you know, after me, we had to set up a life where they can live freely. And so, you can find, where can you
Richmond
find?
Rev.
Yes, Richmond Revolution on Instagram, and stay up to date, and Facebook. Yep, we're in those two places, and Richmond Revolution.
We out here. I just want to say thank y'all for creating spaces like this. Yes. This is just super, super critical to like community organizers that just need a brave healing space to be in like community. Mm-hmm. So I really want to appreciate uplifting all the work that's happening right now in Richmond, and taking the time. And you can follow Reimagine Richmond on IG and on Facebook, and you can email to just get directly in contact with me, Reimagine Richmond 510 at Gmail. And of course, if you DM us, then on IG, we'll always get back to you. And to our youth, our wonderful leader here.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for inviting me here. This was awesome. I love your podcast. I was listening to it on the way here.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
And I guess I just want to highlight what you and Armand were talking about earlier today, about the Black Panther Party and their free lunch program, and how the FBI and just general American government was so against it, and how they quickly adopted it to make it their own idea. And that is because, like, the incredibly oppressed, poverty-ridden, unfortunately, minority groups of this country have really cracked the code to lifting ourselves out of our poverty and honestly out of our misery. And that is through mutual aid. That is through human compassion. That is through helping each other out and seeing each other as a community. And when the community thrives, we all thrive.
It's true.
And we, again, here at Richmond right now are at a crossroads where we can choose compassion, where we can choose mutual aid, where we can choose to treat each other with human decency, or we can continue to perpetuate these cycles that have only gotten us here in the first place, and that is through self-preservation, individuality, and just wanting the most money for yourself because you feel like that is the idea of safety.
Yeah.
My name is Osmo Huerta. If you are an interested youth and you live in Richmond, please feel free to come and join the Richmond City Council. We need as many ideas, as many leaders to help advise our city council on how they should be leading for a very bright future for all the youth, all the children, and all the adults. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. You guys get used to speaking in microphones because I feel like you're going to be doing a lot more over the years. Thank you guys for coming and sharing your story with us. Anything we can help in the future, we're there. So again, we're proud of what you guys are doing, especially for the little ones, so it means a lot. Thank you guys for listening to The Voice Party. We're out.